Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Trailblazer segment, brought to you by Navé Travel, today we're featuring Karolina Dehnhard. She's an international family law attorney and partner with Lindabury, McCormick, Estabrook, and Cooper. She's born in Poland, and Karolina has traveled to her motherland 4 times since the Ukrainian-Russian war broke out, mainly to address lifting the adoption moratorium of Ukrainian orphans displaced by the war, and of course to contribute to humanitarian relief. Today she joins me with Senator Ray Lesniak. Together with Senator Lesniak, they led a group of civic and community leaders to Poland last fall and visited over 1,200 children displaced by the war. Today, we're chatting Ukrainian orphans, the importance of terminating the moratorium, and Russia's open effort to adopt Ukrainian children and pretty much bring them up as Russian. Now, the Ukrainian government's suspension of inter-country adoption has created a huge dilemma as organizations urged receiving states, international bodies, and humanitarian agencies to adopt a harmonized approach and call for a moratorium on inter-country adoptions from Ukraine. Apparently, during emergencies such as conflict, it is a well-accepted principle of states' obligation under international law that adoption is not an appropriate response for unaccompanied and separated children. Children separated from their parents during a humanitarian emergency cannot be assumed to be orphans. Until the fate of a child's parents or others close relatives can verify, each separated child should be considered as still having living relatives or legal guardians, and therefore it is not a need of adoption. Again, I repeat, this is the advisory, not my opinion. Adding insult to injury, of course, thousands of children have been found in the basements of war-torn cities like Mariupol and orphanages in the Russian-backed separatist territories of Donbas. They include those whose parents were killed by Russian shelling, as well as others in institutions or with foster families known as children of the state. Russia claims that these children don't have parents or guardians to look after them, or that they simply can't be reached. Joining me now are my dear friends, Karolina and Senator Ray Lesniak, to chat further. Welcome to the show, my dear friends.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. What an introduction. I mean, that was very well done. And what a great overview for our audience. So it's great to be here.
Great. Let's jump right in. So Karolina, above all else, let us address the biggest issue, that Ukrainian babies are literally being stolen underneath the administration's eyes. Associated Press, in fact, found that officials have deported Ukrainian children to Russia or Russian-held territories without consent, lied to them that they weren't wanted by their parents, or used them for propaganda and gave them to Russian families and included citizenship. Dear Lord is all I have to say. What do you say to this?
Well, first of all, I just want to make clear that the children that we are talking about and the children that we are looking to help were already orphans before the war broke out. So these were children that were living in orphanages throughout Ukraine, that the courts have terminated parental rights of those parents, and they were ripe for adoption.
And they didn't have any family members willing to adopt them as well. So they're really true orphans, and they need a loving family. And there are plenty of families here in America who were in the process of adopting these children, but got stopped when the war broke out. We would like to get the Ukraine to work with the United States government so that temporarily these children can be with their adopted families, so that when the war ends, they can go back and complete the adoption process. But in the meantime, they'll have a loving family.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it's so important just for our audience to recognize that these children were already doomed to a life in the orphanages, right? So if Ukraine's going to take the position that they should be adopted by Ukrainian families, well, guys, you had the chance to do that before the war broke out. So true orphans, okay? But to your point, I just traveled back from Poland about a month ago. On the 5 o'clock news, you see clips of Russians coming in, pistol in hand, a shot being put in the air, and them essentially picking the blonde little girls to go with them. And I don't think that those intentions are for those children to be adopted by loving families in Russia. So there's a whole world going on of exploiting these children.
As a matter of fact, we have, in America itself, we have 200 families that were in the process of adopting children in Ukraine, 300 children, and they were just torn away from their loving families. And we would like the United States.
You want them back. You want them back. And listen, at this point right now,
Exactly.
when we look at Russia and their open effort to adopt Ukrainian children and bring them up as Russian, it's already well underway. And in one of the most explosive issues of the war, this is it, right? This is what's happening. And Russian officials don't deny Ukrainian children are now in Russia, but insist the camps are part of a vast humanitarian project for abandoned, war-traumatized orphans, and have been surprisingly public with social media messaging aimed at Russian audience. And Russia does not, however, acknowledge that that these children, are in fact not orphaned. They're just keeping very tight-lipped about it. And we don't even know how many at this point, how many children in Russia Russia is housing. So it's a little bit scary now.
This is the other side of the coin, though. These are children who have already bonded with these families. And again, they could come to the United States, live with these families, and then be obligated. The United States would be obligated for them to come back to Ukraine to go through the Ukraine adoption process.
Yeah.
These children should not be denied a loving family because of what Russia is doing. This is perfectly legitimate. Not only legitimate, this is necessary to give these kids a
good
family,
life. Now,
a good
Karolina,
life.
the Ukrainian government suspension of intercountry adoption has obviously created a huge dilemma from the onset, because these organizations are now urging these receiving states and international bodies and humanitarian agencies to adopt a harmonized approach and call for a moratorium on intercountry adoptions from Ukraine. It's huge. Tell me why and how you got involved, and what do you say to this moratorium?
So I've been involved in the adoption issue for many, many years, right? I'm a family law attorney, and one of the things that I focus on in my practice is helping people build loving families, right? I'm an immigrant from Poland. I speak fluent Polish. I live the American dream, and I've always wanted to promote that for people that couldn't have children in the United States by adopting kids from Eastern Europe. My focus initially was Poland, but when the war broke out, then it was obvious. People started calling after they saw the images of these children walking kilometers across fields. I immediately became involved, contacted my contacts in Poland to say, where are these kids? We're being told there's 2,000, 3,000, 7,000. Where are they? Who's taking care of them? So no better way to get your hands around the situation than to go to Poland and to actually visit these kids. And you can imagine, Zen, at the beginning of the war, there was an outpouring of support. Food, supplies, medicine, you name it, right? NGOs stepped in. The government stepped in Poland. But now, 15 months later, these children are being, quote unquote, abandoned again. The NGOs are pulling out. Government resources are running low. Ukraine is not contributing very much to the orphanages in Poland, and the Polish government can only do so much. So to Senator's point about the 300 children that were matched with parents in America, 2 of which are from New Jersey before the war, there is no reason why these kids should be languishing in an orphanage in Poland or in Spain or in the UK, because they're now throughout Europe, and not be here. There is no reason for this.
And Carolina contacted me because of my position, 40 years in the New Jersey Senate, but also my grandparents were born in Godova, right on the border of Ukraine, just 100 miles from Kyiv. And when we visited, we had an entourage, and we gave these orphans clothing and toys and iPads. And they were happy, but they were really happy for our presence there.
Yeah.
They hugged us. They gave us high fives.
And you and Karolina led this group of civic and community leaders to Poland. This is what you're talking about last fall, and you visited 1,200
But we were only
children.
be able to be there for hours. Meanwhile, the rest of the days.
What were your observations?
Well, they were so needy. They were just they grabbed us. They hugged us. They just wanted to have human contact.
You know, Karolina, really lifting this moratorium on the Ukrainian orphan adoption process is extremely important at this point. So what are the current obstacles?
Well, we essentially need to have President Zelensky and his people pay attention to the fact that this is now something that should be done for the welfare of these children. We understand that at the time that the war broke out and there was, people waiting on the borders, sex trafficking and otherwise, right? It was commotion, it was war. We understand that there had to be perhaps a moratorium initially for the protection of these children. But there is no reason in the world why we cannot implement the services that were in place before the war broke out out. There's relationships between Poland, the U.S., and Ukraine. There are international adoption agencies involved. There are systems involved. More importantly, though, there is no reason why the children that were already vetted by Ukraine and the U.S. and matched with parents, why they should not immediately be carved out from the moratorium and be allowed to finalize the adoption process.
And that can be done by President Biden and Homeland Security. So this is just not a Ukrainian issue. So we are appealing through Senators Booker and Menendez and Schumer to get Homeland Security and President Biden to offer this subset of 300 children what's called parole. It was done in the past for Haitian orphans during their catastrophe. And again, so that they can join their families and then when the war is over, go back to Ukraine and go through the formal adoption process. It's something that should be done. It's in the best interest of these children.
In the best interest of the children.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
Karolina, to keep things into perspective, I mean, you're an attorney. You have a very pragmatic approach to things and calculate your every move. In this instance, you have an emotional attachment and connection to this ordeal. What is currently driving your motivation, and what is the focal point at this moment for you?
I think it's threefold. Number one, I never had children, and I'm not going to at this point in my life. And I really would like to leave a legacy for children with all the work that I'm doing. Number two, my mother took a big chance in life and came here to this country when I was 7 years old in pursuit of the American dream. And those first days were very difficult. We didn't have any money. We didn't speak English. Today, I'm a lawyer. My brother's a doctor. My mother built a business. This country provides every piece of the American dream to become something that is possible. But for my clients, right, who have literally done all they can to try to provide a sense of family, provide loving homes to children, that's the obstacle that right now is driving me. And Senator and I, after having visited these children, and we saw the kids and we know the families here, we absolutely can envision that those two kids landing in Newark Airport, that first hug, and that moment of a family being formed.
And for me, my grandparents coming from
Well, my
Poland.
next question,
Oh,
wait, hold
yes.
up. My next question to you is, you're ethnically Polish.
Yes.
How has this situation directly affected you, and why are you so passionate about bringing the Ukrainian orphans to their spoken families?
Well, first of all, Karolina makes me passionate about anything.
She
She's
makes
so
everyone
passionate.
passionate.
Yes. But again, I am so proud of the Polish government who stepped up to the plate, took millions of refugees, gave them jobs, homes, and schools. And that Polish pride came out in me and got me to, with Karolina, to unite with these orphans and take it one step further to help these children.
Beautiful. This is such a beautiful story. Karolina, who are your current partners on the project, and what can the American public do to help?
I could probably tell you that we have doctors, politicians, entrepreneurs, business owners, government officials, diplomats. We have a huge array of people that each have a voice in this. Our goal right now is to, number one, bring those 300 children here. That's our focus, but to continue the humanitarian relief. There's a picture of a little boy named Max that we were able to secure surgery for. Max is now going to be able to walk. We have other efforts in place to continue to provide education and other aid for these kids. I'm heading to Poland in the next few weeks in collaboration with Senator Lesniak and Jack Citarelli. We have a donation that's going to send, I think, 100 kids to camp so they have a little relief from their day and their lives in the orphanage.
And further donations can be made to the LesniakInstitute.org.
Well, we're going to direct traffic there. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. It was such a fabulous segment. I love being able to spread awareness and get your vision to where it's seen by everybody so we can overturn this moratorium and have these children home where they belong. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for
Zen,
getting
thank
that
you.
message across.
Thank
we
you.
love you.
Absolutely. That was our Trailblazer segment brought to you by Navé Travel, and that was the incredible Karolina Dehnhard, international family law attorney and partner with Lindabury, McCormick, Estabrook, and Cooper, joined, of course, by Senator Raymond Lesniak. You could head directly to LesniakInstitute.org, or you can also head to divorce.dynasty.com. It's an awesome platform. You definitely have to check it out. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Navé, a members-only travel portal exclusively available through Organo, offering members steep discounts on nightly or weekly hotel stays, cruises, auto rentals, excursions, and so much more. With its travel getaway portal, Navé makes the days of surfing multiple travel sites and spending hours evaluating the best deals done with. That's because with Navé, you are guaranteed the best prices. Plus, to gain access to an even more expansive collection of condos, hotels, cruises, vacation villas, fantasy getaways, and concierge service, there's Forever Weeks. Simply purchase a Navé Forever Weeks package one time and enjoy the benefits many times. With Forever Weeks, forever means forever. Not only does Navé guarantee you the best prices, but it is also one of the few travel portals that pays a referral bonus, in addition to you earning rewards points, which can be redeemed on the Travel Getaway portal for further discounted hotel room rates. Become a member today and navigate the world of travel. Navé, the world for you to experience. For more information, go to navé.travel. That's Navé, Nave.travel.